you know, what I want to tell you is this. With your help, I'm not only going to win Ohio, but we're going to win the White House. I'm going to be It's great to be with so many of you tonight, and it's the first time I've seen my daughters in a little while, so I get a little hug. Oh, it's crazy out there. You know, people say, well, where are you going? I said, well, I don't know where I was, and I'm not quite sure where I'm going, but I know this. I'm getting there, wherever it is. So thanks for coming tonight, and I just want to take a few minutes to kind of remind you of what we are doing and what we have done in this state. Because we started this whole effort back in 2010, and when I came into Ohio, you might recall, I don't know if you'll remember the numbers, but we had lost 350,000 Ohio jobs. Families, I mean 350,000 families that one day dad or mom walked home into the house, sat with the family and said, I'm out of work. Now I know what that means because, you know, I grew up in a town that was really pretty much like Mansfield. It was a blue-collar Democrat town where if the wind blew the wrong way, people found themselves out of work. And you might recall, I know you've heard this over the years, that my father carried mail on his back. And his father was a coal miner. And I'll tell you something about my grandfather. My grandfather would go down in the mine and he would work all day. And then he would think, I got a pretty good haul here. It's going to be a pretty good day's pay. And you know what they'd tell him? Well, you dug too much peat and not enough coal, you'll get about half of what you thought you were going to get. And my grandfather had no one that he could appeal to. No one that he could say, you know, you're taking advantage of me. You're not treating me fairly. He ended up dying of black lung, and as he was getting older, he was losing his eyesight. But he never lost hope, and he gave an inspiration, a lot of hope to his kids, who grew up, one of whom happened to be my dad. And my father was very involved in the community, the way we all need to be in America today. And when the son scored a touchdown on Friday night, I see St. Pete's has got a, who did I see, was going to have a big football game. Well, when somebody scored a touchdown, my dad would celebrate. When the daughter sang a solo in the choir, my dad would celebrate. And when somebody lost somebody in the family, my dad would cry. And he was involved in what was happening on that mail route that he handled for 29 years. And my mother and father, you know, lost their lives to a drunk driver. And people stood outside that funeral home and told me about how much my dad had meant to them. A really important lesson. My mother, I'm still trying to check this out to make sure it's true, but my mom was one of four. Her mother could barely speak English, and as a kid, we believe she is the only one in the family, two brothers and a sister, and my mom. My mom was the only one to get out of the 8th grade. And she walked across a little footbridge over a railroad track to go get her high school diploma. And she was, by the way, very smart, very opinionated. I like to say she was a radio talk show pioneer. When somebody on the radio would say something, my mother would yell at the radio. And it's just the way that it was and how we grew up. But what was most important is I learned in that community what it meant to have work, what it really meant to have a job. That's what it was really about. And when we'd play ball, you know, we'd go up to the schoolyard and my buddies would come up and I could tell something was wrong. And when I reflect back, it was because somebody had lost a job. And they would turn around and, you know, a couple weeks later, maybe a month later, they'd be happy. And you know what it was? Somebody had found the job, sir. And we began to realize how important it was to be able to work, to be able to live our God-given purpose. So all of my political career, it's always been to fight, frankly, for those that don't have any power. Because my mother didn't have any power, my father didn't have any power, the people in McKees Rocks didn't. And sometimes people take advantage of it. Kind of what sometimes happens in Mansfield, hasn't it? Because it has never been really easy. It's always been something we have to work at here in Mansfield. But I want you to know that being a congressman, and I worked to balance a budget. You heard Pat Tiberi, our great friend and congressman, talking about it. The reason I wanted to balance the budget is because I knew when we balanced the budget, we'd have more success, more economic success. And we did, because when job creators know that the ground is safe, the ground is secure, they'll create jobs. And then coming into Ohio, the situation here was at 350,000 down. But I want to tell you what I really heard that really burned me up. I went to New York, and in New York they have the credit rating agencies. These are people that determine your credit worthiness. And you know what they told me? Ohio's dead. Oh, it's done. It's just, you know, there's no way to rebuild that state. And frankly, we're going to have to downgrade the credit. In other words, we're going to rip up your credit card and give you one where you can buy less. And we're going to keep an eye on you and watch you. And I looked at those folks, I'll never forget it, and I said, you just give me a little bit of time. Just give me a chance. Because nothing keeps Ohio down. Nothing. We have just missed the right formula.